Today we'll be talking about friendships and understanding them and what they actually mean. Because the Torah has very creative ways to try to convey or explain friendship. And it can do it in ways which you wouldn't even sometimes realize. But that's what's so unique about the Torah. So maybe we'll connect it to Pesach some way, somehow. I know last week I said we'll talk more about Pesach, but I feel like this topic is very relevant because if you're not married, friendship is something that is a big and vital, it's a vital part of your life. Typically, we hang out with friends, everything surrounds our friends, and it's pretty much becomes our life. Now, when we get married, that commitment needs to change a little bit because the house comes the priority, right? But one of the ways in which the Torah conveys to us or discusses friendship with us is actually through an animal. And I'm going to explain it. Now, there's the classic interpretation, but we're going to take it we're going to go one level deeper and show and really feel and understand how relevant it becomes to us. So, in this week's parasha, we're discussing all the animals. There's another incident that happens, which I'm not going to discuss, the death of Aharon and Aharon's sons. I'm not going to discuss that. But the Torah does introduce the topic of kosher animals, right? It tells us they have their signs. I'm not going to talk today about kosher food. If you have questions, you guys can ask me midway, whatever it is, but that's not going to be the main thing. The Torah starts as following. It tells us like this. It discusses which birds are kosher and which are not kosher. And it says the following, it begins giving us names, it lists names for us of birds that are kosher, and those that are not kosher, and we shouldn't eat them. So we have a rabbi, his name is the Ramban, not Harambam, right? Not Harambam, Ramban, Nachmanides. He gives a very compelling reason why we cannot eat specific animals. And the reason he gives is as follows. He says that when you consume the meat of other animals, the reason we don't eat lions, the reason we don't eat alligators, or all these type of predatory animals is because we don't want the traits of that animal, which is a predatory animal, it preys on other animals, we don't want it to be infused within our character traits. Let me kind of give a little bit of a kind of example of how that works. I'm going to give a quasi-biological, spiritual how this works. This is how it was given over to me. As human beings, obviously, what the level of energy we have is often through the blood that we have. So, for example, if someone has low hemoglobin, right? That's one of the metrics where you check blood work. Their energy level is low, very low. They feel tired, etc., etc. Now, when we eat food is energy, right? Food is energy. It gets through our bloodstream. Now, anytime you eat something, and there's certain properties in what you eat, specifically animals, right? In their skin, in their flesh, and there's specific properties that are related to that animals. That's why we eat cows. Cows are, herbivores. They all they eat is plants. They're animals. They don't prey on other animals themselves. But what happens is when you consume food, so our body, we have the soul. The soul is a part of the body, obviously, but there's 5 aspects to it. I'm not going to get into it. It's Kabbalah, high-level stuff, beyond my pay grade. And in a nutshell, our soul is 100% spiritual. There's different levels of it. And our skin, or our flesh, is 100% physical. You can't take something that's 100% spiritual and 100% physical and put them together. You can't. So you may ask, well, how are we here? So we have a buffer. We have something in between. That is called guf. Guf is in Hebrew, I guess, loosely translated as body, but it's a little different. What is guf? Guf it has a little bit of spiritual properties in it, and it has physical properties in it. It's like, it has a combination of both. So it's almost like if you wanted to cook something. Let's say you had a piece of steak. You can't take the steak and put it directly on the fire. You have to have something in between to control the heat. So if our soul is like fire and the body is like the steak, right? The goof is like a pan or something that separates it. Almost like, sometimes you see an explosion maybe happen in the ocean and somehow you see fire on top of the water. How's that possible? Because of the gas or the oil enables the flame to burn, because it's not burning on water, it's burning on what? There's just something in between, which is the oil itself. So we have something in the body called goof. Goof has these properties, a little bit physical, a little bit spiritual, and it merges between the two. So when we eat specific animals, this is how the Ramban explains it, we are concerned that those properties of these animals are going to be part of our character traits. So we stick to animals on land, we stick to ducks, lambs, cows, etc. That's pretty clear, right? Okay. If someone didn't understand it, let me know. So now comes out something very interesting. He says that because of this, we're very careful not to eat these specific birds. But then Torah gives us one bird that's very different than the rest of the birds. You're not allowed to eat it. But the Torah comes and gives it a very interesting name. Some of you probably know what I'm talking about. And the name of this bird is Hasidah. Hasidah, it's loosely translated as a stork. I don't know if it's exactly that animal today. There's dispute whether it is that animal or not that animal. That's not the case in point. But this animal is very interesting because Rashi tells us on this animal has a very unique character trait. He asks, do you know why we call it Hasidah? Because the Gemara explains, She'osa hasidut in havroteha bimzonot, which means it only gives food to its friends. So therefore, that's a nice thing to do. It's a kind bird. But for that reason, you can't eat it. I don't understand. If it does acts of kindness, what's the problem? It didn't discuss preying on other animals. It's not vicious. It does acts of kindness. If it does acts of kindness, why can I eat it? But you can't eat it. So if we take so the Ramban says, well, we don't want to eat animals that are going to have bad character traits, so they're not infused within yours. But this is a good character trait. I want to eat this animal because I want to be a person who does chesed. So if for example, maybe you lack on the side of chesed, go have a stork. Go eat a stork. Maybe that would help me. But no, you can't have it. For that exact reason, because it does acts of kindness with its friends. So we're trying to understand, why would the Torah name an unclean bird with a positive trait? It's a bird that we cannot eat, but it gives it a good character trait. What's that all about? The Gemara gives a very interesting analogy on this. It discusses this. It gives a story, or an illusion rather, that the Gemara says every single city or locale has its own tendency towards specific behaviors and character traits. So the Gemara was written in a city called Babylonia or Bavel. It was in Iraq. That's the location over there. And there, the Babylonians are known for a couple of traits. One of them is flattery. In Hebrew, it's called Hanupa. Now, in English, I don't know if exactly that's the proper text, but flattery can be used in different connotations, but oftentimes it's more on the negative side, right? Maybe false flattery, but regular, you want to compliment somebody, that's a good thing. In Hebrew, the word Hanupa is 9 out of 10 times is a bad thing. Because what does that mean, Hanupa? What is that, what does that mean? Is, I'm trying to give somebody some sort of a compliment. I don't really maybe mean it so much. I like, wow, you got really nice shoes. You don't really like the shoes. You're not allowed to do that. In fact, the Gemara says Hashem he's repulsed by people who behave in this way. That they are just complimenting, or rather giving false flattery to people just to get to their objectives. It's I don't think just Hashem, anybody else doesn't like this idea. Maybe to a certain extent we can all sometimes be that way if we're honest, but ideally we try to not be this way. It's not real, it's not a good feeling in doing that anyhow. So anyway, the Gemara comes and says that it gives us that Babylonia is known for flattery, and we know we have prophets, and one of the prophets is Zechariah, and he has an illusion about the city of Babel. And what's his illusion? Is there's two winged women, right? They have wings. Where this is when in the prophecy that he got, and there are two women, and they have wings, right? And he sees them traveling, right, with their wings to Babel. They're transporting something, and when the Torah discusses this, the Gemara, it says those wings, you know what they're similar to? That of the stork, the Hasidah. They're exactly the wings of the Hasidah, which is the animal that does acts of kindness only with its friends. So, what the Gemara comes and says is, it's giving us that, it's telling us that these two women, with these wings that represent act of kindness, it's telling us that the Hasidah is very much connected to the concept of flattery. What they're telling us is, in a nutshell, that those wings that come from the animal that does acts of kindness with its friends is also very much the same thing related to the flattery that the city of Babylonia was known for. So what it does is it describes these two women who have the same exact wings, and therefore it's overlapping the two. It's saying that trait of flattery is very much related to the kindness of the Hasidah. That's what it's doing. It's connecting the two. It's overlapping the two. So, anyone have a question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Isn't it easy to be flattered? I mean, isn't it easy to have kindness towards your friends?
It's a good point. Hold that up. It's a good, because I'm going right into that. You'll see where I'm going. You're kind of assisting me in this regard. So we're trying to understand these two things over here. We're trying to understand why is it that Torah is named an unclean bird with a positive trait, and we're also trying to understand what is the relation between flattery and act of kindness. What's the relation between the two? Because that's how the Torah describes those two winged women who brought down to the world in Babylonia. They brought down flattery, but they had the same exact wing as the stork, which is the animal that has this act of kindness. So what's the relation between kindness and flattery? So this is what the Talmud, the Gemara is coming to teach us. It's an unbelievable insight. When a person does for his friends what he should be doing, right? Why is a person doing it for his friend? Is he doing it because when I'm doing something with my friend, am I doing it because I have a hidden objective? I'm trying to get something out of my friend? Or am I doing it because out of my commitment to the relationship with that friend? Which means that if I don't perceive in the relationship with my friend, if I don't perceive it that I am obligated to the relationship because I'm friends with them, and if I don't see it in that way, but I see it in a way where I'll do you a favor, that's not friendship. Meaning, if our whole relationship is our whole relationship is I'm doing acts of kindness for my friend, that's not a real friend. If you perceive that you're doing kindness for your friend, that's not kindness. You're not supposed to make your friend feel as if you're doing kindness with them. If you do that, what you're really trying to do is control them. Because now they become beholden to you. The more you do favors for your friend, and the more you give them the feeling that I do a lot for you, and you give them that feeling, And you don't give him the feeling that you do a lot for them because of the relationship, because of the friendship. You give him the feeling that I'm doing a lot for you because, I'm doing you favors. Just know you'll owe me. When someone does something like that, it's for one reason and one reason only. They're trying to control the relationship. That's not a friend. I mean, you're doing act of kindness. That's what it looks on the outside. But now they become beholden to you. Now because they feel like, I owe you one. And if I owe you one, now I can try to control the relationship. I'm in control right now. That's one of the biggest issues we have when it comes to doing chesed. I'm doing chesed. I'm doing something good. But if I make the other side feel like I'm doing chesed, it's not chesed. It's controlling chesed. And I'll get to that in just a moment as well. But what motivates a person to view that everything he does for his friends is an act of kindness? What motivates us to do it? What's the reason that drives us to do this? Why do we perceive, I did this for him, I did this for her, she did this for me, I did this. And by the way, it's not just with friends, right? It's with siblings, it's with husbands and wives, it's with parents to children. It doesn't end. I do this for you and I do that for you. There's a scorecard. When that happens, when the relationship the biggest issue in that is happens like this. When you don't want to be committed to somebody, when you want to be able to be independent, if that's the goal, I want to be independent, I don't want to commit to anybody, I don't want to obligate myself to anybody, then I'm going to start doing things for people from the perspective of favors. But if you're not afraid and you're willing to bring your guard down and you're doing things for the sake of the relationship, now you become dependent. Now there's a mutual relationship where the other side, it's much more than expecting, is that the other side understands that the relationship is what drives each other. We're not keeping scores because in any relationship, one side will do more than the other. It's a rule. There's never 50-50. And if one side cannot accept that reality, it's going to be very difficult to be in that relationship. If it's always, I did this, you did, it cannot sustain itself. It's a real struggle. And so the closer the relationship that we have, then obviously the greater the obligation we have to each other. But at the same time, we have to be losing some degree of independence. Because independent means I don't know anything to anybody. And if we're honest, nobody wants to feel like they're owing something. Why? Why do I not want to feel like I'm owing something to somebody? What's the problem with that? And by the way, that's something that oftentimes destroys relationships. The biggest issue that I've seen, and I was taught this by my rabbi, is why you don't want to feel like you owe something to somebody? There's a degree where there's a part of yourself that you don't love yourself enough. You don't appreciate yourself enough. What do I mean by that? Is if a person now, in any type of relationship, if he tries to rationalize all the good things people did for him, why do you rationalize something? So I don't feel obligated. So if I rationalize all the good things that someone has done for me, it just means that I don't realize that I'm actually being loved. Someone actually loves me for who I am. If I don't realize I'm actually being loved, then I'm going to try to rationalize all the good things people did for me and justify that, it wasn't really for me. They did it because they have a hidden objective. And I become cynical. And you think you can build good relationship this way? No, you cannot. It's a bigger problem between person, not being grateful is a problem. But not being grateful also stems that I have a problem between myself. I don't realize people actually love me. People actually appreciate me. So I need to find ways to rationalize why people did good things for me. That it benefited them. No, but it also benefited me. No, but I don't want to feel obligated, so I got to find something to justify it. Because the Gemara says, you know what's a good guest? A good guest is someone who comes to the house and says, wow, look what they did for me for Shabbat. Look at all the drinks they put out. Look at all the meat they put out for me. You know what's a bad guest? Oh, they would have done it anyway. That's the difference. Oh, they would have done it anyway. We have to be very careful in that. And so, if a person views that which he does for his friend as kindness, then what you do is if you see, oh, what I'm doing for a friend is kindness, you are maintaining a distance in the relationship. You're not actually getting closer. Because what does it mean if I do act of kindness? What does kindness mean? Chesed, right? It means that I don't have to do it. But if I do it, then if I go out of my way and I do something, and that's the feeling I give over, and that's the feeling I experience, then I'm not actually getting closer to somebody. I'm actually keeping a distance from them. Getting closer to somebody is no, what do you mean? We're friends. Of course I would do this for you. What's the question? You don't think twice. You're stuck, I'm here. You're struggling, I got you, not a problem. I'm not giving the feeling that if I perceive it as acts of kindness, I'm maintaining a distance from them. And that's one of the biggest issues. Which means, this actually reminds me, I once called somebody, I knew somebody who had to work on their credit score. So I called somebody in the business and I gave him a call, I never forgot this. And I said, listen, I wasn't going to make any money out of this. Wasn't looking for any personal favors. But I said, listen, I know this person. This person is close to me. You think you can help me out with credit score? I didn't ask for money or this. See what I told. Listen, they're not making a lot of money. See what you can work with them. They're going to pay, but see what you can do. This is what he tells me. Yeah, I'll do you a favor. Do me a favor. I said, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Never called him again. If that was the perception, that's not someone you want to be in a real relationship with. It was very, very hard. I like the guy till this day. But I just never forgot those words. Rubbed me the wrong way. When someone is trying to be independent in the relationship, you know what it means? It means that he's trying to have the relationship on his or her terms. Either it's much more than it's my way or the highway. Which means it comes out that they're trying to retain control over the relationship, and we all understand that. But it means that me being dependent means that I have to give in. And me being independent means I don't have to give anything to anybody. And that way, there's no relationship. The highest level of relationship we can have is between husband and wife. There's no higher relationship than that. I know this because we have a book called Shuir. And Shuir, Rabbi Akiva says it's the holies of holies. And it's a song that's written between a husband and a wife. It's a love song. It really is between the Jewish people and Hashem. But you can also take from it the relationship between husband and wife. It's the highest relationship you can have. It's probably also the most challenging relationship you can have. But by the same token, it's the highest one you can reach. Which leads me to the last point over here. What's flattery? I describe to you now kindness. If I do acts of kindness with somebody else, that means I'm trying to perhaps control the one side of the relationship where they become beholden to me. I can have control in the relationship. I can do many things. What's flattery? Flattery means I give someone a false sense of reality. I give them the feeling that whatever the compliment I'm giving them, right, I convey over to them, and they believe me. Which means if they believe me, I got them. Now, since they believe me and I got them, that's a very manipulative thing to do. Now I can probably try to gauge or direct the conversation or the goal towards my personal needs. That's what flattery is, because I'm not genuinely complimenting the person because I mean it, because I don't want anything in return. It means I'm doing it because I'm trying to control the aspect of the relationship. Which means I'm buying the person's allegiance, I'm buying their devotion. Yeah.
How can we fix that?
How can we fix that? Towards the end, I'll be able to get to that. It's a very good question. Which means if I resort to flattery within a relationship, then it means that the other person is not really my friend. Now I want to ask you a question. How do you say friend in Hebrew? Chaver. What is the word chaver? What does it mean in Hebrew if you break it down to the root of it? Chaver, it's a derivative of the word hibur. What's hibur?
Relationships?
Close connection. I feel connected to the person. A real chaver, a real friend is I feel genuinely connected to the other side. Which means I may be giving a little bit more than they are. I'm okay with that. Again, we spoke about abusive relationships. I'm not here to talk about that. We discussed that. There's a part where that needs to be measured and understood.
You said the Ramban says this, right?
We're in relation to,
Whatever the Torah says, there's a reason.
yes.
So this whole thing, is it because the normal teva, the nature of a person, is to treat their friend like this?
What Maimonides is saying is like this, is if when we do things for other people, it's oftentimes we give ourselves up, we do something for somebody else, right? And it's not easy. It's not easy in the beginning. When the rabbis say, "Aseh lecha rav, ukne lecha haver." What does it mean, ukne lecha haver? What does the word liknot mean? To buy. You know what it means? It literally means with money. What do you mean? How do I buy a friend with money? What do I? Why do I go and what is this, corruption? Like, I don't understand. Like, how does it work? No, you know what it means? You and a friend go out, drinks on me. I got it. You actually use money to acquire friendship. It doesn't sound good, but it's not limited to just money. It's any action you take, any effort you put in, it's a form of acquisition. They say, even in business terms, how much sweat equity do you have in here? How much time have you put into this? What level of equity do you have in the relationship? It's not limited to just money. Money is one of the ways in which it can manifest itself, but it's how much are you putting in the friendship also is important. Some people can give money, but they don't really care. Then you have a friend who maybe doesn't have as much money, but he's always there for you, who uplifts you, he builds you, he really wants what's best for you. So these are acts of acquisition. It's very interesting because in halakha, in Judaism, it's very unique, especially in business. Anytime you want to buy something, right, that is a movable object, in Torah, you have to do a kinyan. Kinyan means an acquisition. And one of the ways to do that is if I take anything someone wants to sell me something, so giving money is not enough. That's consideration, it's financial consideration, I get money, great. For me to actually go and acquire it, I need to pick up something and lift it. Very good. Chalipin is one of the things as well, right? So I actually go and I'm able to do kinyan. Kinyan means, right, that what do? I elevate it. I have to do an action where I bring it up. When the Torah says, ukne lecha chaver, friends need to elevate one another, need to uplift one another. Yeah, of course, I know as friends you joke around, you make fun of each other. That's obviously part of friendship, right? They say you're a good friend is going to bail you out of jail, but your best friend will be with you inside there, telling you it was the best time we ever had. That's one of the ways you see, like that's kind of type of friendship you have. But kinyan means I'm elevating, I'm doing kinyan, I'm lifting it, because that's something you have to do with friends. You have to find ways to uplift one another. That should be your mindset, your philosophy. So, going back to your question is, as friends, what's my perception? Am I in the relationship because I'm trying to get something in return? Or am I in the relationship because I'm trying to be a giver? I'm trying to uplift the other side. I'm thinking more outer-centered and less self-centered. Which leads me to the last point. Predatory is not limited to an animal just preying on other animals. Sometimes a predator could be someone who's actually trying to flatter you. That's also a predator. That's what the Torah is telling you. It's telling you that bird, the chasidah, which does only acts of kindness with his friends, right? Yeah, it doesn't eat other birds, but it's a predator. Because it's trying to control the relationship. That's why we're not eating it. That's what Nachmani says. That trait of, it's doing acts of kindness, but only with his friends. Only with his friends. We don't want that infused within us in character traits. And if there's aspects of it where we have it, we want to get rid of it. When Hashem comes to Avraham and he says, Lech lecha mi'artzecha mi'moladetecha el eretz asher ar'eka. Rashi says, right? Lech lecha means letovatcha lanatcha, go for yourself. When Hashem came to Avraham, who's the ultimate symbol of chesed, the ultimate symbol of chesed, the reason Hashem began the relationship with Avraham was, it says, it could have said, lech. What's lecha? For yourself. What's for yourself? For your own benefit, for your own good. Hashem entered into the relationship and he told him to do all these things for Abraham's own benefit. He went in the relationship. How can I do good to Avraham Avinu? Avraham, and now you can also understand why he became such a person who's doing chesed with everybody. Because every time he went into the relationship with other people, or he uplifted other people, he did it for what reason? I'm going in for their best interest. But that's why he was so successful converting many people. That's one of the reasons he became so successful, because he went into it. What can I do for you? What can I do for you? Tell me what I can do for you. Come eat. No problem. You don't got to pay me anything. Just say thank you to Hashem. But you don't got to pay me anything. When that's the mindset, when that's the philosophy, the people's, you're right, people can come and take advantage of it. That's true too. But I believe, and we can't foresee it, but I believe that a person who genuinely feels like the other side, I want to do what's in their best interest, you also have protection, min hashamayim, because you mean well. You have a doubt, you can ask. Ask, make yourself a rab. Ask them, I'm not sure about this person. They may be taking advantage of me. Am I seeing it correctly? Yes or no? But if you go into any relationship where, what can I do for the other side? What can I do for the other side? You're not coming to get anything. If that's your mindset in marriage, you're 50% there.
How do you get the other 50?
Huh?
How do you get the other 50?
A lot of work. A lot of work. But the idea here is, there's also an aspect that when we do give to somebody, maybe we go out of our way to give somebody. We do. That can happen. But we also have to realize, in Torah, you make money, right? You make money. Person made, I don't know, you made $100,000. Bezrat Hashem, you make $100,000 this month. Baruch Hashem. So you have to give tzedakah, right? You worked hard for the money. Maybe you worked on it. Amen. Maybe you worked hard. You really put your time into it. We know it's customary and it's the right thing to do to give tzedakah. 10%, $10,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, $10,000. Nobody is not saying it's not. But when you give that tzedakah, you know what the word tzedakah means? Tzedek. Tzedek means just. Even though we worked hard and we made that money, giving away, at least, let's say 10% of that money, some people give 20%, but let's say 10% of that money is tzedakah. Tzedakah means tzedek. God gave it to us, but we have a responsibility to give back. It's the right thing to do, it's the just thing to do. In fact, Maimonides writes, not on the individual, but on the community. If someone needs help, you can impose tzedakah on the community as a whole. Impose it on them if someone needs it. You can actually go and put that imposition on them. But on individual, you really can't. But on the community, you can. But that's the obligation we have. Which leads me to the point over here. The Torah says, you know what happens to somebody who always goes around and flatters people again and again and again? You know what's going to be their end? You know how they're going to end up? The Gemara says that the punishment of the flatterer is that he or she will fall into the hands of the one who they flattered. Why? Because they're attempting to control other people by flattery, and now eventually they will be controlled. And this happens time and time again. People don't realize this. Anytime we do things for people, Hashem can write it off as chesed. Our job is to convey over, I'm not doing it for chesed. I can never make the other side feel like it's chesed. I'm doing it because I'm interested in the best, in your self-interest. I'm interested in your self-interest, and I want to elevate the other side. That's my mindset. That's what I should be looking forward to. Not the other way around. And sometimes you also have a friend who comes along. There is a pasuk in Mishle. It says, "Ne'emanim pitzai ohev ve'na'atarot nishikot soneh," which means the ne'emanim pitzai ohev. Ne'eman means is loyal. So the wounds of your friends are loyal. Ne'emanim pitzai ohev. The wounds of your friends are loyal. So when your friend says something to you, maybe he hurt your feelings, maybe he said something direct, whatever it is, he did something that really got you upset. But you got upset because deep down inside it's true. right? So that is loyal to you. It's hard to hear it. A real friend will put you in the spot. Will be very direct with you, may say stuff that may hurt your feelings. But why is he doing it? Because he loves you, he's loyal to you. So on and so forth. Ne'emanim pitzar oev. And then it says, Ve'na'atarot nishikot soneh. The word na'atar means profuse. Like someone who apologizes profusely. He always, like he's doing na'atarot nishikot soneh. The kisses of the enemy are profuse, which means your enemy is always going to give you kisses. He's going to kiss you, only to catch you off guard and potentially stab you in the back. Because he's conveying one side. He's not giving you the hard side. He's giving you, it's only the good side. A real friend also may do and say things that are difficult to accept. But don't look down upon it. If you have a friend for a long time and he wants in your best interest and you genuinely feel it, you hold on to a friend like that because it's very rare. Because having good friends, it's something that can get you out of life's most difficult things. You guys know the story of Eov?
No.
Eov, it's a crazy story. This guy was righteous. He was extremely successful, right? Wealthy, family, and some say this maybe perhaps it's an analogy or it's a kind of like it's a story that some say it didn't happen, but there's a real message here. Anyway, he's a very wealthy person, family, he has everything that every person would want. And one day the evil inclination, the Satan, the Satan, what did he do? He found ways to give criticism and to test him. He wanted to test him. He says, yeah, he's so righteous because he has everything. So Hashem said, if I took these things from him, he would still be righteous. And the Satan said, well, I want to see. And I know this sounds a little not right, but there's a point why I'm saying this right now. He went through a lot of difficulty, lost everything. Lost family members, lost money, lost everything. He had 3 friends. 3 friends he had. And the Satan, the evil inclination, wanted to come and say, I'm going to take them. Hashem says, no. Them you're not touching. Why? Because if you take them, you're going to kill him. That's what friends have the power to do. Friends have that power that even when everything else is down and difficult, they can uplift you. That's you're uplifting the other side, and vice versa. But this is even though the Torah comes and says, yeah, it gives this animal a positive trait, but it's a dirty animal because it's conniving. And flattery is the same exact thing. It's trying to control the relationship. It's not an easy thing, but Be'ezrat Hashem, may Hashem opens up our eyes to see who's a real friend and who's, we'll have peace, but from far. Take too close. It's not an easy thing to do, obviously, right? And something you have to be very alert to. Now, I hope I answered your question, because you wanted to know how do you do that. You want to look at the other side and see what can I do for the other side, and generally work on that. That's the example Hashem gave Abraham. Are there any other questions?